We are coming a bit late. We had some, some technical issues we were sorting out. But I'm so glad that you were patient enough to wait for us. Remember, this is your show. It is not my show. It is your show. And remember, we are here because of you. And so thank you so much. Remember, every Tuesday morning, we meet here and talk of nothing else but leadership. And I said again, as John Maxwell says, that everything rises and falls on leadership. And that's where we invest our time, we invest our everything, so that we can come here and talk about leadership. For the last 2 weeks, man, I have had a great man. Last week, we had a great man ministering with us or speaking to us, and he was talking about transitions in leadership. He did this so well. I received so many calls from you people, writing and commenting, and it was a blessing to know that our guest was speaking, blessing you and helping people. I want to say thank you. Those who are watching from Kenya, those who are watching from out of this country, I want to say we are here for you. And so what do you do? As I've always said, remember, I cannot oversay this, that there is worse crime than murder, is to know where water is in the desert and you don't tell your people. We are here, water is here, and somebody needs to drink this. So what are you supposed to do? Take your phone, just go to YouTube and share the link that is there, Elevate TV Kenya. Go to the Facebook and they share that, and they help someone to listen and help someone to hear what is going on. Today we'll be talking about honor, leadership, and honor. When our guest last week started touching on that, many people wrote to me and said, why didn't you allow him to continue? And I said, well, the time was over. The man was gracious enough to come back and share with us. Our guest today is none other but Pastor Zack Wangi, who is together with us today, and he is continuing. Men of God, thank you so much and most welcome.
Thank you, sir.
We want to greet our viewers and say something to them.
Thank you and good morning, viewers. Grateful to be back in the show again. Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to a great show today.
Well, you're most welcome, sir. You know what? You are here because people said that man must come back.
Thank you.
You are here because somebody is saying that man has something to say and he did not finish. By the way, before we even go very far, let me tell you, people are watching from Firewood Wind. I had a friend of mine, two actually friends of mine who called me from the US. They wrote to me and they said, that man is loaded. And I told them they can get your book in Amazon. I hope they were able to get, and I'll be checking, with them to know whether they were able to get that copy of the book. Now, today, let's talk about honor. Let's talk about honor. Let's say you touch on honor when we're talking about transition. And I thought it is something you mentioned, but you did not go very far. Would you please want to mention something about honor? Take the floor.
Thank you. Definitely. I think when we talk about leadership, we cannot go further without touching on aspect of honor. Because when you talk about leadership, it means there are specific people that will occupy those leadership roles or positions, and the rest of us, or those who submit to them, they relate with them on the platform of honor. So leadership and honor to me goes hand in hand. And I think it's quite in line to discuss the same and try to bring in what I would call it a principle, because it's a principle of honor. It undergirds every leadership aspect. And I think for me, leadership is wide. Honor is wide, because you're looking at honor everywhere there's aspects of authority. You're looking at honor where we talk about leadership, because leadership is not something abstract. Leadership refers to specific people occupying those roles.
Wow.
And so the only way we can relate and connect with leadership at whatever aspect level, at whatever level, be it in the family, be it in any institution, be it in the workplace, even relating with the government institutions, we only reference and connect to them on the platform of on the platform of honor. So honor remains to me a critical principle and a value that we need to exude as far as we relate to our leaders.
Wow.
So at whatever sphere, you want to call it at a lower level of the family or leadership organization level, even in the church as an institution, and even the government. So I think honor is very critical, and I think it's a value and it's a principle that needs to be understood and applied for that matter.
You touch on honor, and I got so many comments from people, and who wrote to me directly and saying, why didn't you allow him to talk about honor? And of course I said, yes, I would have allowed him to talk about honor. But the issue was, we were talking about translation, it's only that it became an element in the discussion. But man of God, when we talk about honor, some people have either taken it further than, and the people wonder, is it honor or is it hero worship? And in your definition, you mentioned family, you mentioned government, you mentioned any circle of leadership. How would you define it so that we don't lose it, even as we begin?
Okay. I would, to me, refer honor, or rather define honor as, you know, every time we greatly esteem, when you treat someone with high esteem, or someone you revere, okay, it's someone you have reference for, someone who you esteem and you respect. I'm avoiding using the word respect because honor is not respect. You see, respect is mutual, but honor is not mutual. Because honor sometimes to many people looks one-sided. You see, for me to respect you, you have to respect me.
Yes.
There's an aspect where respect demands respect. But honor is not demanding honor from the other end. In fact, many people, the reason why many people struggle with honor is because honor seems one-sided.
Okay.
It's like you're supposed to, for example, if you even look at the scripture, one of the common definition of honor, or where we come to cross honor, where God says, honor your father and mother, that your days may be long. It's one of the commandments. So there's nowhere God puts a clause in that law that says, honor your parents when they do this. You understand? Yeah. Honor seems to be one-sided. Honor your father and mother, and the story ends. And so many people struggle with that.
And they don't,
and that's why I'm avoiding,
so that they may also honor you.
The honor doesn't put responsibility on the person you're honoring. In other words, you don't honor them because of what they do. You honor them for who they are.
Wow. You honor them for who they are.
Not because of what they do. You don't honor your parents because they're going to take you to school, in as much as they have responsibilities they ought to do to you as a child or as their children. But your honor is not pegged on what they do. Honor to your parents, I'm using parents as an example, is pegged on who the parents are, as your father and mother. And God has vested a lot of authority on the mother and the father, and he demands that we honor our father and mother. But I'm saying the reason people struggle is that honor does not seem to put responsibility. And so many people struggle, because I think we live in a culture of, I'm sorry to say, where we feel a bit, you know, my voice counts, my opinion counts. You know, if I give this, what do I get? I mean, there's a bit of that happening today. So people today struggle with honor. And I think I want to put it early on and say that today we are living, or rather we are fighting a culture of rebellion. You know, honor is no longer treasured in many people. When you seem to walk in honor, you did mention the aspect of honor sometimes become excessive, where we've had cases of abuse. I mean, we've had cases of extremes within the church circles, and also within, sometimes in the context of marriage, so to say. So many people struggle with honor because we are never, you know, we are not really taught, or we are not, honor is not quite entrenched in our culture, so to say.
Because I wanted to, even before you go there, I wanted you to explain something, because all of a sudden, it is looking like a foreign thing. It's like honor was not something we talked about or thought about, or is it that it eroded at some point? What happened?
I think definitely. Let me put it this way. Due to exposure, I think, and I want to talk from an African perspective, honor is one of the values that cuts across the board of many cultures. Any culture you go to, they'll say, respect your elders, honor your elders. That seems to be like a common principle across many cultures. Okay? But we are seeing a generation whereby, as time goes by, we are coming to a time where really honor is becoming, we are becoming casual. Growing up, you could not, or rather it's expected when you greet an elder that you speak, that you stand. It's expected that when an elder person or a respectful person comes to the room, that you stand. There are those common values that are expected. But as time goes by, it's not uncommon today to see kids doing a high five with their dad, and you know, we become casual. I don't want to say we become westernized, but I think a bit of our values have been eroded as we are exposed to westernization. Because a typical African context is that we are taught to honor our elders.
Yes.
But I know there's also the challenge of where do we draw the line between honor and fear? Because growing up, maybe we were taught to fear. There are many things we did to our parents because we feared them, our elders. But honor has to come from a place of reference, from a place of understanding.
I want us to, because the reason I keep putting you down a bit, because when it takes off now, it will not come down. And I want us to put this almost as we say, precepts upon precepts.
Yes.
And as you put it, there are people who feel that honor is like a foreign thing, and therefore we are like being forced to be like other people. You know?
Yeah.
Others feel like telling someone to honor is like infringing into their rights, or you are forcing. You know, either they look at honor from the way you greet someone, the way you stand, the way you talk, and therefore they are not able to understand. Some others look at it like you are going too far. So is honor cultural? Is it contextual? How do you look at it?
I would say honor is expressed differently in different cultures. Today, if you look at the family context, if I visit our neighboring country here like Uganda, or you got countries in the south like Zambia and other maybe societies, a wife has to kneel down when they serve their husband. There's a way they express, and that's what the culture understands to be honor. And I would assume if a lady was to go and serve a man, when they are not kneeling down or expressing it, it would be interpreted to seem like dishonor. But in actual sense, let me answer you and say that yes, honor is universal, but it is expressed differently in different cultures. What is honor in one context may not necessarily be honor. I see like within the Japanese context, there's a way people greet and bow their head.
Yeah.
But in Africa, we don't necessarily bow, though we are still honoring the person you're greeting. So I think, yes, I would answer you to say, yes, honor is universal. It's a universal principle, but it is expressed differently in different cultures. So there are those who will express it in their own way, because that's what it means to them. And I think that's where it's always important to familiarize yourself and you know, have an understanding of what honor entails in every given context. I think that's how I'd look at it.
And you know, the reason why now this issue of honor came in is when you talked about your case. You know, the way you talked about your case in church and with your pastor, and how you reconciled, which now brought in the issue of honor. And actually, I would say somebody wrote and said, can you expound much deeper on that? Because I think I am suffering because of something I did not do right. And listen to that man of God, he is here to help us. And that's why I asked, can you come and expound more on that? So just touch on that. I know we'll be coming, I mean, we'll be going further, but just to recap, would you mention that?
Okay. It's true that honor touches on every aspect of leadership. And I think in my example, I was giving the context of how do we express honor within the church context. Now, let me put a disclaimer out there and say that there's been cases of abuses and extremes within the churches. And I think part of what people have called to be honor may not necessarily be honor, because honor is not just materialistic. Me giving money to a man of God or giving money to someone who I refer to an authority does not necessarily mean I honor them. It reminds me the words of Jesus Christ, because Jesus looked at the disciples one time and said, you honor me with your lips, but your hearts are very far.
Okay.
I would say honor to me begins with the heart, more than what we say, because we can easily be politically correct. I can say the right thing around my pastor because I want to be seen to honor him. But the question is, what do you say when your pastor is not there?
Wow.
So honor goes beyond lip service. Honor is a heart issue. If I honor someone, in this case, a pastor or a leader in the church, an elder, or every leader, be it a head of department, because sometimes one of the challenges I've come to see within the body of Christ, it's easy to ascribe honor to the top leader of the house, to the lead minister, to the lead pastor, or whatever position or title they may occupy, but people fail to understand honor is a principle that should cut across the board. The same way I honor the man of God, or the leader of the ministry, or the pastor for that matter, is the same way I should honor the head of my department if I'm under ushering department, if I'm under hospitality. So it should not be, if I honor the pastor and I don't honor the person they've put on over me, I'm just being politically correct. I'm just playing games. I'm just doing lip service. I'm just doing, playing games around. But when you honor someone in your heart, you will honor them regardless of their position, but you acknowledge that these people deserve honor. So I did touch on my aspect, and I think you're bringing the aspect of the church. Yes, I've gone through the context where I said, at
just as you give us that, let me just, see what we're doing online. And your Pastor Joseph Watata is a man of God. He says, thank you, Apostle, for hosting Reverend Zack. He is a great treasure to the body of Christ. Our generation is blessed. Grace Muriithi says, honor indeed should be incorporated in our cultures. And then, yes, and then we have Scholastica. Motinda says, honor is a heart issue. Now, as we go, I heard you mention honoring the leader of department and all that. Then you mentioned that honor, somebody doesn't have to do something for you to honor them. It is there. Now, how do you honor, for example, that leader who in your perception you think he is not good?
I think that's a very interesting question. Because I think one of the things I did bring out very clearly last time, I did say you're always allowed to disagree, but never dishonor. You can always disagree with someone respectively. You can always express your opinion to say, I was of a different opinion. I don't think that direction things would work. There's always a respectful way of bringing your point across without showing dishonor. And this is the principle. If you want to share a different opinion with an authority figure, the rule of the thumb is that you should escalate things upwards, not downwards.
Okay.
In other words, if I'm under a department and I don't feel the head of department is there are a few issues that are not going right, as you say. My responsibility is not to go and talk to the other members of the team and say, guys, how are things happening? What do you think? That's dishonor. Because you're tainting the image of the leader. You're tainting the office of that person, because honor pertains to the office. That's critical. It's not about the person, it's about the office that person is holding. And so we should never narrow it down to the personality, because when people bring things to personality, that's when dishonor begins to creep in. But when you look at it in terms of it's the office I'm addressing, then you need to have an appreciation. So if I have an issue with a certain head of department in any organization, be it in the workplace or in the corporate circles, the best thing is first to approach that person in private and try to respectively say, I see your opinion, I was of a different suggestion, and see how they deal with it. But if matters escalate to a level you feel things may not end up well, then from that level you can take things higher after you have expressed it with that specific individual. But dishonor is when you bring things downwards. Always escalate issues upwards, not downwards.
Wow.
Because when you de-escalate issues, you're now creating a revolution. You're trying to create, you're stirring up the hearts of the people. You're creating a rebellion, whether it's in the church, whether it's in the family, whether it's in a department, in the workplace. Always escalate matters upwards, not downwards.
So you cannot correct someone, say, you have to behave this way for me to honor you.
No.
Now, when we will be taking a short break, remember we began a bit late, and so our time was spent as we trying to work out on a few things, but we are going to take a very short break, only a few minutes. When we come back, I would want us to go now to honor in different sector, because we need to think about honor in family, think about honor in marriage, think about honor in the government, and how are we supposed to go about this. So we will be taking a short break. After this, we'll come back and continue. Meanwhile, you have a chance to now share, call someone, tell someone, hey, in Elevate TV, we are getting help. Somebody is talking about honor, and he is helping someone. So share, and let's meet. Continue to write to us. I'll be reading your comments and in YouTube, and both in YouTube and the Facebook. So just be there, and let's meet after just a short break. Well, welcome back. Just 2 minutes just to sip some water, and we are back. Thank you so much for staying there. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for calling someone. And thank you for your comments. I'll be reading some more. Thank you, Pastor Grace. You are saying escalating things upwards, not downwards. That is very powerful. And then honor should start from the heart. That's where we stopped. Now, just before we went on for the short break, we were to talk about now honor in these different, let me say, not department leader, but institutions. Can we start with the church?
Thank you, sir. Honor definitely is critical in the church because, as we know, the church subscribes to the Bible. And the Bible is key on honor. God is a God of honor. He believes in honor. And so the Bible even talks about, the man of God is worthy of double honor. There are many aspects where honor is quite, emphasized. And I think, as I said in the church, honor is not just for the man of God or the lead pastor. Honor also applies to the leadership, whether it's the elders, the deacons, or the heads of department. So it's a principle. It's a value that should be in every Christian because God believes in honor. And the reason why God believes in honor is because God is the appointing authority of every leadership. So every leadership that is there, you don't honor that person because of their personality. You honor them because you're doing it unto God. Because God has allowed that person to be there. He is your pastor for a reason. He is your elder for a reason. He's the head of department for a reason. And honor, let me put it this way, honor talks more about you than the person you're honoring.
Okay.
Because the moment you start saying, I cannot honor people because of how they're behaving, and I said honor is not pegged on people's behavior. And I'm not in any way trying to excuse or to try and wash under the carpet that, of course, there have been issues in terms of, people that are worthy of honor who have behaved dishonorably. But as someone who submits, you should never come to that level. So at the church level, we, of course, should honor men of God, honor the leadership of the day, because honor demands submission. One of the reasons why we struggle with honor, and I want to say we because as human beings, we all have an element of pride. Honor demands humility.
Okay.
Honor calls for submission. And naturally,
honor demands humility, honor calls for submission.
And those are not natural things to us. It's not natural to submit.
Okay.
It's not natural to be humble. We all want to feel some level of... So when you feel like I need to take instructions from someone, I need to be corrected by a head of department, it touches on your ego. And if you're not mature enough as a believer, where your ego has died, where your flesh has died, where you have crucified yourself on the cross, that man will always awake and say, why should he correct me? Why should he tell me what to do? There's always an aspect where we feel we need to tell ourselves what to do. But honor demands submission. Honor demands humility.
Man of God.
Yes, sir.
How do you honor a man or a woman who is not as learned as you are? How do you honor a man who may be even younger, to you? How do you honor a man who found you in this church, for example? Yeah. You are among the founders. This guy has just been transferred here. And he's
made the head.
Yes.
I hear you, sir. You know what? As I said, honor is towards the office. In as much as, yes, it is towards the person. But honor is towards that person, the office that person occupies. Today, there's a person who is sitting on the highest office of the land. That is the president. We honor him for that. Next year, we know there will be an election. Someone else will come.
It doesn't have to be the oldest.
They don't have to be the
most
oldest.
learned.
They don't have to be the most learned. So long as they are occupying that office, they deserve our honor because it is unto the office. In as much as we cannot ignore that there's a person in there who, of course, may seem to be the recipient of the honor. But honor is towards that office they occupy. You need to have that mindset. It's the office you're dealing with, not the person. Because when you bring it to the person, you'll be carried away by their weaknesses.
Wow.
And question whether they even deserve the honor and their mistakes and their shortcomings. But whenever you remind yourself that I'm dealing with the office, not the person.
I also love the way you have put it, that honor doesn't just necessarily depend on the one receiving, but the one giving.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you may even not know that you are giving honor. It is you should be conscious that you are giving it. Wow.
It's true because, you see, honor, it's about, it talks about, let me say even dishonor, talks more about you who is dishonoring the person than the person you're trying to talk about. Today, if you go and dishonor someone, it reflects badly on you. than even the person you're trying to say, oh, they didn't deserve honor because this is what they behaved, they did, it's their character. It shows you, it points more to you. Dishonor talks more about you than the person you dishonored. So we have a responsibility to honor those that are worthy of honor. Bible says, you know, pastor, leaders, those that labor in the word and doctrine, the elders, they are worthy of double honor. The Bible talks about honoring our parents. The Bible talks about honor. Those who are worthy of honor, they deserve honor. And so in every aspect, we should never at any time look into someone and say, do they deserve it? Do they qualify? I said, you deal with the office. Honor relates to the office in as much as there is a personality that may seem to be the recipient of that specific honor.
Is it possible for someone to dishonor someone without knowing, or for someone to give honor that is not honor to the one receiving?
It's very possible.
Because you think, to me, this is honor, and to another person, it's not honor. Is it possible?
It's very possible, because as I said, honor needs, you need to be, as I said, one of the things you need to do in every context, you need to train yourself, what does honor look like in this context? If I go to a country, like I said, Uganda, I need to understand what is honor. If I travel to Oriental societies like Japan, I need to understand what is honor in their context. So honor demands that you expose yourself. And for those who are familiar with the scripture, you would understand that the Hebrew boys, when they were called to work in the king's house, in Babylon, they were trained for 3 years.
Yes.
Before they could serve. Why? Yes. Because training was to remove the ignorance. So that you don't go and misbehave before the king in the name of, where I come from.
Oh.
No, they had to be trained for 3 years.
Okay.
So we need to expose ourselves to know what does honor look like. And coming to the church, we need to ask ourselves, what does honor look like in the Bible? How do we honor men of God according to the word of God? You remember one time when Paul was being taken to court, and it was before a hearing, and he said something rude to a man. He didn't know he was a priest. But when he was corrected, he understood it. He was very remorseful, because in as much as he was under trial, he was not, it was not enough reason to dishonor the office. The moment he realized, oh, that's a priest, he said, I'm very sorry, I didn't know that is a priest. Even though Paul was unjustly being prosecuted, the circumstances did not dictate or guarantee or warrant him to dishonor the office of the high priest or the priest.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Man. Can I read some? Hey, man.
Sure.
Yeah. Somebody says honor demands humility and submission. Pastor Mary says honor demands submission, yes. And the honor does not depend on the one that is being given that honor. And then, what is amazing, especially as you talk about people being trained in Babylon to know how to operate in the kingdom. Is it that now, because there's a lot of dishonor, in fact, it's just last week when we were talking and we talked about the schools and the banning of schools and all that, teachers are crying that these students cannot be talked to, the drama around whether we should take back the spanking in schools again. Does it mean now we need to probably have a curriculum on honor? I mean, that way it seems like.
I would put it this way and say, honor is a value that should be inculcated beginning from childhood.
Yes.
Even before, so that when people go to school, they, of course, will be taught more honor. But honor begins at a very early age where children are taught to honor. Like many kids, you'll be surprised today, many children today don't know how to greet adults.
Yes.
They say sasa, or they use some slang word, and it's okay to have fun. But at some time, we become so casual that we don't know, how do I greet my elders?
You remind me, I was in Dar es Salaam one time, and the way we were taught in school, you thought it's just for the exam. And then I'm here, and a man comes and he says, a young man comes and he says, shikamo. And believe you me, it took me time to remember how are you saying it. And I had to be taught, that when you are greeting an elder, you have to shikamo. But for us, it was for the exam.
Yeah, it's very true. I think you touched on that when you said we are seeing that happening a lot in school. But I think for me, it goes back to the homes, because before the kids can come to school, we need to ask ourselves, where are they coming from? We cannot relegate all the responsibility to the teachers, in as much as they have some role to play, because kids will spend a lot of time with them. But before they even go to school, kids need to be, there are some things that need to be ingrained at the home level. We need to teach our kids how do they greet the elders? They look at them and they respectively greet them. They don't just walk and say, Sasa, because that's how kids are doing it these days. Because by and by we are getting eroded. We are losing those values. And let me say this. There's so much exposure that has come with, of course, the internet and the TV and what have you. And one of the things I have to say, Hollywood today, most of the movies we watch or we grew up watching, they glorify rebellion. The hero of the movie is the person who shoots the police, is the person who overspeeds on the highway. The person who breaks all the rules on the book is the hero of the movie. You understand? And so we grow up knowing that, those are the heroes. Those who break the rules, those who smoke when they should not be smoking, those who don't follow the procedures, those who don't queue when everybody's queuing. So that's the Hollywood script. And so that's the generation we are dealing with now. And so now when they go to school, how do we tell them to honor their teachers? While all along we have accommodated them in what they've been doing. How do we tell them to do that?
Wow.
Yes, so I believe honor should start at a young age. It should follow through, even at the school level. And honor is not something you need to be taught. I think it's something that needs to be ingrained and inculcated so that it becomes part of us. It needs to be reinforced.
So in other words, man of God, we are saying we lost it somewhere.
We are losing it by and by, I would say. We are losing it.
And now we are men. So we touch about church. Now we are talking about children. But these children have parents. And these parents at home may be father and mother. Honor between the parents. Anything you would want to comment about that?
I think I would say the parents become the role model of the children. The way the wife addresses the husband and the way the husband addresses the wife in the context of the family becomes the template within which the kids learn honor or dishonor. If the parents are exchanging words before the kids, then the parents have lost the moral authority to ever talk about honor. And they have failed on their responsibility of modeling and demonstrating honor at the family level. The Bible is very clear to say, you know what, wives, honor your husbands. And that's a controversial issue because, not controversial per se, it's a dicey issue today because we have this feminist movement. There's a lot of drumming of equality. We are all equal. I mean, I'm earning the same money, if not more than the husband. So the issues of honor seems to be, I mean, I honor you in what capacity? I'm earning money like you. But according to God, the reason why God is serious about honor, because it's only where there is honor that we can have order.
Okay.
It's only when we have honor that we can have order. When we lose honor in the family, when the wife refuses to honor the husband for whatever reason, maybe because they earn more or because they don't feel the husband deserves the honor, or maybe they are going through a rough patch in their marriage. Because, as I say it again, you can disagree as a couple, but never dishonor each other. Dishonor is when you go and talk ill outside the confines of marriage. You go and discuss your husband, you go and discuss your wife outside the confines of marriage. Because the moment you do that, you will never have an opportunity to go back to those people and say, now things are okay. The image you tainted of that person will remain ingrained in the minds of the people. So dishonor.
But you don't understand what he did. You know what he did.
Let me tell you, I said honor looks very unfair to many people because we live in a culture of human rights. And honor does not seem to put responsibility on the person you're honoring. It seems to put initiative on the person who should honor and not the person who is receiving the honor. So as I said again, you can always disagree but never dishonor. I want to add the same and say, regardless of what your husband has done or your wife, they remain your wife. They remain your husband. They occupy that office in your life. So by dishonoring them, you are dishonoring that office. And so you can never give any reason as to why you dishonor your husband, as to why you dishonor your... And God is even, to the Christians, God is even so specific to say, husbands, Peter writes that, and he says, husband, honor your wives, and wives love your husband. He says, so that your prayers may not be hindered. I know many people look at it in the aspect of husbands should treat their wives, but it's a continuous discussion, which begins by wives being called to submit to their husbands and treat their husbands with honor, and wives being put on the same place to respect their husband, but also husband being put on the position of, or rather being expected to love on their wives.
Yes.
So that God will hear their prayer. So even God values honor so much to the level that when you are dishonorable, God cannot answer your prayers. Because God believes in order. When you are walking in dishonor, you are out of divine alignment. You cannot expect God to answer your prayers when you're not honoring the people he put in your life as authority figures. And let me put a good case example in the context of family. We see a very good illustration in the book of Genesis chapter 8, the story of Noah and the sons. What Noah did was wrong, but the son was not, Ham was not justified in dishonoring the father, exposing his nakedness. I know you asked a good question. Do you know what he has done? Yes, Noah drank and exposed himself. That was not a good reason. That was not an honorable reason for a father to do. But it was not a good reason for Ham to dishonor his father. So fathers will have naked moments. We have no reason to dishonor them, even in their naked seasons. Because every father will go through a naked season.
Wow.
But as a son, you have no reason to dishonor them. There is no reason you can ever give for that. So the generation of Ham, who are the Canaan, the son, were cursed by their father Noah. They were told, a servant of servants he will be. Why? Because they dishonored the father. Yet the father was drunk when he said those words, but they affected the generation of the Canaan.
You know, somebody said when God is not happy with a man, he touches his children. Just as when God is not happy with a nation, he touches the economy. And now Ham dishonors the father, and then the children are cast. Could it be that the dishonor we are seeing is not what children are doing now, or what we are seeing now, is what was done by those who are ahead of us, and therefore it is trickling down?
I would say there's always a cycle to every sin and every door that we open. I said last week that what you don't deal with, what you do in moderation, and you don't deal with it, the next generation will take it to the extreme and to the excess. There could be true that there are seeds of dishonor that we sowed as a generation, and now we are reaping in our own children dishonoring us.
Wow.
So there's an aspect of that. However, I'm not going to say that all is lost. I would say there's still room for restoration. There's a way we can save the generation. We can begin again to model honor. And I think this is where we take personal responsibility. Me as an individual, in my capacity, at the family level, at the church level, as a responsible citizen, I demonstrate honor. When I speak with every authority figure, even in Kenya, I know many people have very low opinion of the police officer. But the police officer represents the law. So when you deal with that person, you're not dealing with the personality, you're dealing with the office he holds. When you speak with the chief at the lower level, when you speak with your county commissioner, when you speak with the governor, the MP. So before all those authority figures, they all deserve honor, regardless of whether we feel they are worthy of it or not.
You know, you're saying, and I'm not even able to arrange this the way I would really want you to put them, but you're saying that the movies we watched, the hero is that man who fought for the police, the rebel. The hero is that man who has broken the law. The hero is that man who has shot everybody and has remained standing. And therefore, we again, you know, watching is also learning. Learning is not just sitting in class. And therefore, you come even in our rooms. You see, somebody has the guts to fight the police. Somebody is stopped, waved down, and they just spins off. Why? Because, as I saw in the movie, I would also want to be the hero. And then this also trickles down even to the church. The one who shouted the pastor down, the one who ran out with the basket, the offering basket, and was not caught by all the ushers. And all these things are happening. So where do we begin? Where do we begin? Because we can't talk about it without doing something. Give us tips on where to begin.
I would say for me, honor is a personal responsibility. Before we can teach it, we must demonstrate it.
Before we teach it, we must demonstrate it. Yes.
Everyone can demonstrate it at their own level. If I am a father, if I have a family, if I'm a mother, if I'm a family leader for that matter, I have a responsibility to demonstrate honor at my level. Because I honor those who are ahead of me so that those who are before me, they can also honor me as well. And so when it begins at if everyone was to take that responsibility of demonstrating honor, and remember, honor is not sycophancy. There's something you said. Where do we draw the line? It doesn't mean I become a bootlicker. It doesn't mean I always agree, even in the office. It doesn't mean I always agree with what my boss is saying. But I find a respectable way of expressing my opinion without dishonoring the person. You understand?
Yes.
And that calls for wisdom.
Yes.
So honor to me has to begin somewhere, and it begins at a personal level, where me as an individual, I say, everyone that deserves honor from my place, I will give them honor. And then I have the second level where we begin to teach it. To the pastors, we have a responsibility. To the children's church teachers, we have a responsibility. We have and the teachers as well. Yes, you did mention about curriculum, but I think it has to be a collective effort where we do it at the school level, we do it at the home level, we do it at the church level. We inculcate it, because if we don't demonstrate honor, then it will be hard to teach godliness, because God is a God of honor. We cannot demonstrate honor. And sadly enough, we don't have honor in the church. Today we have seen people in churches fight their pastors, disgrace their pastors, chase their pastors. Then the same people come back to the church and say, we glorify and honor your name. And God looks and says, are you joking? So God is serious about honor, and I think we also need to take it seriously as far as that's concerned, whether it's at the church level or in whichever sphere of life for that matter.
So you are saying it's a personal responsibility.
Exactly.
You start with yourself. You know, just a few years ago during the Al-Shabaab, when it was really hot, we were told that security begins with you. And so you are saying honor or dishonor begins with you.
It's true.
So we need to honor. Then what we do after that?
We teach.
We teach.
We teach it. But you cannot teach something you're not demonstrating.
Okay.
Because some things are not taught, some things are caught. There are things you demonstrate.
Yes.
You see, as a pastor demonstrates honor to his spiritual leadership and authority, the people who submit to him, they'll honor him.
Yes.
But if this pastor, when he's given an instruction from the headquarters, he complains about it, oh, now they want us to do this, now they're asking us for money, that seed of dishonor will creep into your members. You can never receive honor if you don't give honor. That's how it happens. It's a give and take. You cannot expect honor when you're dishonoring. You cannot expect honor as a father when you dishonor the wife. You cannot expect honor as a wife when you dishonor the husband with the kids. You say weird thing about your husband to your children. You cannot expect those children to dishonor. You cannot expect those children to honor you. So you must first demonstrate honor so that other people can honor you as well.
Wow.
So it has to be demonstrated before it can be taught. And I think everyone has to do that at their own level.
Man of God, thank you. Global Evangelistic Ministry, imekuja ministry, nasema hivi, honoring men of God, peace. And then Dalmas Mongera says, very educative, honor, the quality of knowing and doing what is morally right. Wow. Then Grace Muriithi says, family is a template where children learn honor. In other ones, okay, then it says, every father will go through a naked moment. That is very powerful. In other ones, even when a father goes through a naked moment, an expectation is there that sons will cover that person. Do you have you ever felt like, have you ever been to a place of dishonor and you saw some consequences you'd want to share? Because again, as I told you last time, one of the reasons why people loved this show, especially with you, is because you are candid enough to share about your personal life, and you shared without, being ashamed of saying, this is what I went through, this is what happened. Do you have?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I did share. One of the things I do love doing is we can cite examples out there, but I've come to learn that sometimes when you share your personal experiences, they are more real and easier to connect with. I did share my story where I said at one season in my first pastoral assignment, when it was my time to transition, I did not do it honorably. So I ended up, living with people and, getting a bunch of people to, dishonor the authority and just leave, or whatever the reasons were for the day. But again, there was no justifiable reasons to dishonor the authority of the day. So what happened with these people, when we went ahead to start a church plant, I realized that seed I sowed of dishonor followed me to my new church plant. And these people could never honor me as a spiritual authority because I had dishonored my former spiritual authority. And so it ended up that every time we would have conflict, they would react in a way of dishonor and rebellion. You understand? Yeah. And I began to understand it is the seeds I had sowed of dishonor. And I had to go back to my spiritual authority of the day, of those years, and say, I want to make things right, because I was dealing with that seed I had sowed of dishonor. So, and later, every church has conflicts. And even in the new church plant, whenever we had conflicts, as I say, I realized the reaction was not explainable. For members to stand up and shout at you as a pastor and disgrace you.
When you are just...
and dishonor you from the pulpit because we have a challenge and a conflict and a crisis in the church. I realized maybe this is the seed. It reminded me of a guy called Shimei. When David one time felt Shimei was abusing him. And some of the people around him said, allow us to finish this man. He said, no, leave him. If God has allowed him to dishonor me, let it be so. But in my case, it was a case of reflection to say, could it be because of the seed of dishonor that you sowed when you transitioned way back in your first church plant? So that seed follows you. So I want to encourage people, and I think it's something that I've said again and again, that always observe honor, because when you don't honor, when you sow seeds of dishonor, if you go today and you're transitioning from your work and you dishonor your boss, you dishonor the people, when you go to the place, the day you require honor, you will never receive honor because you sowed the seeds of dishonor. What you sowed is what you reap.
Wow.
In good measure, shaken together and running over, if I may add. So I think that's important. And I think that's I would share that as my experience.
Man, you know what? Our show today was very short. And because we started a bit late. But I want to thank you all who have watched us and who are writing back to us. My guest, Pastor Zack, has a very special book here, The Pursuit of Destiny, and he has shared 10 principles for success. As I said last time, this book is not doesn't have a print hardcovers here in Kenya. However, you can order your book through Amazon. You can get your book, and you can also get the Kindle version. So what you do is go to Amazon, write the Zack Wangi or The Pursuit of Destiny, and you'll get your book, and it will be a blessing. Now, I want to thank you so much for being with us and listening. We'll be here next week, the same time on Tuesday, talking to you on matters leadership. And from our side, we want to say thank you. Please continue sharing and telling someone on Tuesday something happens on Elevate TV. Continue watching Elevate TV and continue being a blessing to this work that the Lord is helping us to do. And from our side, we want to say the Lord bless you. And I think, Pastor, you want to say...
Bye-bye, and thank you for listening to us. Let's uphold honor.
God bless you. Shalom.